This Daf Yom Yerushalmi Pesachim. In the article Oz v'Hadesh, and we're on Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph at the Mishnah of Halacha Beis, and in the Vilna, Daf Mem Zayin Amud Aleph at the Mishnah of Halacha Beis. Ein so as a Pesach lo b'shvod. You can't roast a Pesach not with a metal skewer. Lo eskol, not on a rack. Rabbi Tucker said, "Master ben Gamliel Shamatavi Avdo" is a story where Gamliel told Tavi his slave, save it later on as a Pesach, go and roast for the Pesach on an askala, on a rack. The reason, of course, that it's an issue is because these metal contraptions, whether it's a skewer or a rack, the metal gets hot and it gets roasted on account of the skewer, and it's the coordinator says has to be tzli esh and not account of something else, which is the this derivative of the fire. Okay, so I was going to go into that. What if the Korban Pesach touched the pottery, meaning the side of the oven? So that you have to peel that place which touched the side of the oven from the Korban Pesach, because again that's going to get hot on account of the heat of the pottery of the oven and not tzli esh. The nata mirot of al cheres v'chazay love. Similarly, if the gravy from the Korban Pesach dripped on the pottery and then it dripped back on the Korban Pesach, so that the heat of that drop of which was that was heated up by the pottery, it's going to go back and cook the Korban Pesach. You have to remove that place as well. Natav meirotva al soles. If some it fell from on flour, some of that gravy, yikmot es mekomo. So you have to remove that place. That's coordinator says. None of those it's talking about where it's hot flour. The matvei rotvo machmas solis, the sauce is going, the gravy is going to get heated up on account of the flour. It's a tzli on account of something else. Therefore, that chometz can't be eaten. It has pasul pesach in it. Therefore, you have to remove that spot of solis. Use also chometz kashak kachim psulim. You have to burn it like any other kachim which are pasul. The prior carbon Adas pointed out, this is also the Moshe everybody points out, I guess, that the difference between yiklovas makomo, yitos makomo, that by you touch the cheres of the tanur, then you do clean. Oh, it's sagi b'chtei klipa. It's enough just to peel it off. It's not the mirota I love the yitos makomo. It penetrates, the rota penetrates more deeply. As Cornelius said in the previous piece, yitos makomo lo sagi b'klipa minatila, which is kovi etzel, which is like the thickness of a finger. The shuma nivla b'stoch harabei, the fat, the gravy gets absorbed more. Also shuman tzli min acheres, and that fat of the roast, the gravy, is from the heated up by the pottery, so therefore it has to be removed. Okay, says the Gemara. Tzli eish. V'lo tzli shmud, v'lo tzli kdera, v'lo tzli askala, v'lo tzli matachas, v'lo tzli kol davar. So it has to be tzli esh, which is not from the skewer, not from a pot, not from a rack, not from metal, and not from anything else, which could be the cause of the roasting. It has to be specifically, exclusively on account of the fire. Okay, so Gemara's going to ask on this from the taras, and there's a special taras which has to do with a place where you got burnt, and the pasuk is where there's a scab over this burnt area. There's going to be adam demes ovana. There's going to be some sort of a skin disease of which is white or reddish, whitish. So in any event, so the concerning this, we have a brisa, and brisa says michvas eish, something which is burnt by a fire. Yochel moreres. Moreres, so it's actually moreres. It says moreres. Sorry, different gears. Moreres. The comment it says Yochel moreres miloshem roar besoro shadain yeshbo lecha. It's still moist. The Eastergar say moredes. Some say the gear says moredes miloshem ayin shemorda. Shneisrape yofe v'loni krama kuku, or it's like an eye which rebelled, which hasn't become fully healed, and there's not yet a scab of skin. So Tamlar Vaisa Michyas HaMichva. So Michyas evidently indicates that it has to be fully dry, fully formed skin over the burn. In Michyas HaMichva, Yorad said Tzalekes doesn't mean until it's a strong scab, like Korbaneh says, Achita said Tzalekes She'aleh Alav Krum Chazak. It's a strong crust. She'isrape Amakal Gamre. It's completely healed. Leishala Rosha Amakal, because there's only like a scar left on top. It's like, because I think his Mari was also a scar. Tam Lomer Michvas HaEsh. No, it says Michvas HaEsh. It sounds like it's still burnt. So what is it? Okay, so it has to be something which is healed somewhat and not completely healed. So it says below, reves michva. He that's another pasuk. Let's go. Probably brings down the whole pasuk here. And not in the Torah Shalem. It just brings down Torah Samichvahi, and Tzareves Samichva is a lashon of Ad Shtikrom Klipas Hashum. Now, until it gets a scab like the skin of garlic, like the peel of a garlic, and the Karmeda brings down the full girsa. Saying, so it's a scab, whatever that means, like a garlic peel, which I guess is a partial scab. And now it comes the part, a very important part, which Korbaneh adds in, and the shnichva ba'or. I don't know if it gets burnt by fire. Nichva beremetz. It gets healed with like this kind of coal dust, which is obviously very hot. Basid, or a hot plaster. Basid roteach, or boiling plaster. Ugivsis, I think it's called gypsum roteach. V'chame ur, and water which is heated up by heat. Minayin tamar michva. V'achi perusho, and explains Korbaneh Tzareves HaMichva ein el achikam or alav keklipas hashum. So it means that's klipas hashum, but it says that all these other things are also considered to be michvas eish. Right, hot coal dust, hot plaster, hot gypsum, even hot water. Right, and how here it says by Pesach that anything which is not eish mamish is not considered to be tzli eish. Right, how do we reconcile this contradiction between michvas eish and tzli eish? Rabbi Lezer said tamad tzli eish. It says it says Sli'esh, and that's Ki'im Sli'esh. Second time. Actually, I'm not sure the second time. It's the same pasuk. Yes, it's the next pasuk. So the first pasuk is Al Tochlu Mimenu Noah B'Shem Shamayim Ki'im Sli'esh V'Shal Kirov Al Kibo. That's Perek Beis pasuk Ches, and Perek Beis pasuk Tes says Al Tochlu Mimenu Noah B'Shem Shamayim Ki'im Sli'esh. No, that's it. That is the second pasuk. Yeah, the first pasuk was sorry, that is pasuk tes. Pasuk ches. Pasuk four is v'chlusa b'sar b'laylo tzliyesh matzos omrim yochlu. So the first pasuk is v'chlusa b'sar b'laylo zet tzliyesh matzos omrim yochlu. That's pasuk ches, and the pasuk tes is al tuchnu uv'shem shamayim ki im tzliyesh rosho krov al kirbo. So shina b'kasel lovlik akev is pasuk ches and pasuk tes. Okay. Okay, but here Bramhacha by michva. Now it's the same pasuk, but it repeats itself. So the pasuk is michvas eish michias hamichva. So it says michias twice. So it says twice. In both places it says sli eish. But here it says the first clause michvas eish. Second clause just says michias hamichva. So it does not shino of a kosalaki. On the contrary, the second one is much less specific. Like Bramhacha by some michvas hamichva mikom makom. Okay. No matter which way it gets hot, it gets burnt. Amar Bar Abdullah said, Taman chuka Torah ma'akev. There's a two, as Kormei says, Pesach, Siv Zos chukas ha-Pesach, Siv Torah achas. So, all over the Torah it says chukas and Torah are words which mean specifically as written. No exceptions, no inclusions, I guess. Here, by Michas and Michva doesn't say anything like Torah or Chukah. Okay, so now we go to the next part of the Mishnah, which talks about Gamliel's and Tavi Avdo. So ask Gemara, Leis Gamliel Tzliesh? Why Gamliel allow the rack? Doesn't Gamliel hold Tzliesh? Islay, Pesach Mitzrayim Tzliesh. He says Pesach Mitzrayim. Yeah, he does hold that Pesach Mitzrayim had to be Tzliesh, but ain't Pesach Torah Tzliesh. But Pesach Torah does not have to be a Tzliesh. So he says that those psukim which were talking about Tzliesh and talking about specifically the Pesach of Yetzias Mitzrayim that year, but afterwards it did not no longer have to be specifically Tzliesh. The Pnei Moshe says that it's because it says in Pasuk Ches, specifically on this night of Pesach Tzliesh, not necessarily Pesach Doros. That's one possibility. Ran Gamliel. The other possibility is as follows: Rabbi Yosef Gamliel. Only first switch to Avid from the next line, Avid from the next line up here, and Avid from this line down the next line. Rabbi Yosef Gamliel. Avid Tulzos Eshkesh. She learns the derivative of fire, which is the metal which is heated up from the fire, is Keish. Rabbanon loved in Toseish. They don't make Toseish, the metal which is heated by the fire, the derivative of the fire, as if it is the fire itself. So Gemara asks, the Gamliel is arguing Chachamim and doing a halacha like he paskins against the other Chachamim. It's like a Zokim Mamre, right? How is he doing against the other Chachamim? The Gemara at this point does not answer this question. Okay, the Gemara goes on to a different point. If it was Puzzle said, don't eat it ki'im tzliesh, v'lo ne'amar no, I wouldn't say no. I used to say hivavov tzleya mutar. I would have said that if you just made it kind of like crispy, you singed it and you roasted it, it's mutar. It says no, don't eat from it partially cooked, right? So ki'im tzliesh. So I had not said I would have said, okay, you don't have to fully cook it through. You just can singe it a bit, like sear it on the outside, and that's good enough, right? So that you don't have to roast it through and through. Have it tell Shema no. They say no. It has to be. I don't know. I assume it could be rare, but not very rare, not close to raw. So similarly, wouldn't say not bashel, not to cook it. It says that if you cooked it and then roasted, yeah, mutar. Don't eat from bashel, not at all cooked. Just like no part of it should be no part of it should be cooked, and no point should be cooked. So of course we have a difference between shoko, which is very very cooked, and bishul, which is less cooked, fully cooked, but less than shoko. So So again, okay, fully shlokos, which is very cooked. That's no good. But bishlo v'tzloya mutar. Have it no. You have to say therefore, but also mivushal. Have it tzarich shiom. Although words are not in the Gemara, it's as if it says there. It says that there, and the Gemara sums up and says, tzarich shiom. Have it tzarich shiom no. We need all those exclusions to tell me that no utzli, mashalik and sli, bashal and sli, all this is no good. It has to be just sli through and through. Okay, so now all this seems to be perhaps I have to talk about Korban Pesach. What is mano? Achal kazayis no mi boy yoim. Maybe because I know before Pesach begins. Is tiny chayv, is tiny potter. It's a machlekes. Whether you're chayv because of otochli menu no, you get malchus or not. Man mar chayv otochli menu no, mikom makom. Says the one says chayv because it says otochli menu no. It doesn't say when. It just says otochli menu no. Presumably even on Erev Pesach. Manda the mar potter, it says potter b'shashu kumechol tzli b'altochli. No, the positive command to eat from it roasted is linked to the negative command don't eat no. B'shashu, when at the time when you have an obligation to eat roasted, then now to eat raw. B'shashu when there's no obligation to eat roasted, ain't no b'altochli. No, there is no prohibition to eat it raw. Okay, now we'll go on to another issue of Korban Pesach, which is Shavar Bo'etzim. You're not allowed to break a bone in Korban Pesach. Shavar Bo'etzim Miboid Yom, where you broke the bone before Pesach begins. Is tiny chayav, those who say you get malchus, you over the life. Is tiny potter. Those who say exempt. Ma'adam chayav, the opinion which holds chayav, etzem no tishbru bo, says don't break any bone, no matter what, mikom makom. Manda mar potter, he says potter b'shasha again b'shasha ain't b'kum machol tzli. When you're not, there is no commandment to eat from it roasted. Ain't mishum be'etzem lo tishbru bo. There's no prohibition etzem lo tishbru bo. B'shasha b'kum machol tzli. When there is a command to eat roasted, who mishum be'etzem lo tishbru bo. There is the prohibition of etzem lo tishbru bo. They're linked together. The pasuk itself is later on. It's pasuk mem vav. But it's not like I'll tell the pasuk of I'll talk about no Hashem Ushamayim Kim Tzliyesh Rosh Al Al Kirbo, where the Tzliyesh is linked to the Noah, but nevertheless it's in the same parsha. So therefore, there's this question where there's this connection. So it's interesting that the Rambam, the article brings down that the Rambam paskins that by Ochel Nami B'Yom it's potter, but Shviras Etzem B'Yom it's chayiv. Okay, so seems based on this, the Psukim is kind of counterintuitive. So Shas speaks about it. Evidently, Shari Korban also speaks about it, but derived it out from elsewhere, not from Nar Sugya. Yeah, also too, Yerushalmi wants to say that this is machlokes Bavli and Yerushalmi. So, and the Ram passes like the Bavli, but I think that's beyond our scope for today. Actually, now that I think about it, Adra, but that's good for the reason. The Tzli Eish and Noah in the same pasuk. So therefore, they can link to each other. And therefore, it only applies with Shashu Tzli Eish. Whereas Shvias Etzem is much later on in the parsha. So therefore, it's not necessarily tied into Tzliyesh. That's a simple shot. Not sufficient to explain the Shittas Rambam, but could be something along those lines. Okay, so now we come back to a concept which we had a couple of days ago. Another Bechreso shall Tana Pasuk touch the Korban Pesach directly touch the pottery of the oven. It's possible. Psul Gufu, sorry, it's a Psul Guf. This is burnt immediately. Not the miros acheres, but if some gravy dripped on the pottery, and then dripped back on the Korban Pesach, psul machshiru. That's a psul machshir. Remember a few days ago? So the Korban says psul gufu ve'enaton ibutzura yisar miyab psul machshir shem psul machmasatz. It's not possible on account of itself, only mashabala, but rather on account of it would absorb the toni ibutzura, and therefore you can't burn it until it becomes nosar. The toni ibutzura, ton sura. Okay. It says ton surah, and the Yerushalmi means ton ibut surah. It has to obviously be left over until it's nosed, and then it's burnt. Not that mirot for so tikkun was makomo. They said if you dripped on the solas, you take to kmitza, remove that place from the solas. Chiyah ba'achah b'shem mishum lakish hadad the tema berosachas. That is talking about where it's hot solas. Avo b'tzonenes. But if it's tzonenes, if it's cold, here it says also the carbon 8. However, change this to shorei. We'll go with carbon 8. What does the article do? Also changes it. And he says in the Korban I feel klipa boy. First time, like the Gemara is going to explain why. It doesn't say that it shouldn't roast others. That's okay. And we know Tata Gavar, right? Whatever's on the bottom is what gives it its status. And therefore, if the solos is cold, it's being cooked on account of the Korban Pesach, so you can eat it with the Kedusha Korban Pesach, right? So because the Torah doesn't say it can't roast others. It can't be roasted on account of others. And if the bottom is only the bottom side, then that's all gavar. Sorry, then then it's being roasted on account of the heat of the solas. That's when it's also finished Korban. First time I feel klipa. It doesn't even require klipa. The kem tato card, since the bottom is cold, and a person mischamem solas, the person not getting hot from the flour. Elhu mechamem solas, but it's heating up the flour. But zel lo asor that the Torah did not forbid. El shapesa lo yitzolem achmas achem, to only forbade that the pesa get roasted on account of others. Okay, halacha gimel. Socher b'shemesh shel truma. If you marinated for Pesach with truma oil. If it's Chabur Kohanim, they can eat it. So it's carbonated. Shemuta sucha pesa me peros. It's not going to be cooking, I guess. So because it's not actual water. So that's okay. So therefore, if it's Chabur Kohanim, they can eat it. If it's Chabur of Yisraelim, so then if it's still raw Yirichenu, you can rinse it off, and then they'll be able to eat it. Tzli, if it's roasted, so the outer part where they marinated, you have to peel it off and give it to Kohanim. If you marinated with oil Ma'aseh Lo yasenu damim b'nei chabura. So Bnei Moshe explains she'itnu lo damim if you they can't pay for their portion. B'shel Ma'aseh Sheni shezel k'derech mechira kind of Ma'aseh Sheni because like selling Ma'aseh Sheni and now it's to sell Ma'aseh Sheni. V'she'ei mochim Ma'aseh Sheni b'Yerushalayim, and because you can't sell Ma'aseh Sheni Yerushalayim, so as long as Bnei Moshe here see it. V'she'ei mochim b'Gemara kamarter chen tzarich ligros she'ein podim Ma'aseh Sheni b'Yerushalayim. It's you can't redeem Ma'aseh Sheni Yerushalayim. Lav derech mechira. There's not derech mechira, right? I think it's a typo here. It should be not the lav derech mechira. It should be the derech mechira. It gets changed in the article. It does. It got handed them. They caught it. It has the lav in parentheses and the in brackets. Okay. The derech mechira. If it's telling about derech mechira, might be Yerushalayim. What about Yerushalayim? I feel begulim mochim. Can't even sell it outside Yerushalayim. Kedam reish Ma'aseh Sheni. Elimination said derech p'dio. It's like you're redeeming it. V'lo yadavar b'gvulim podim. And if it was outside Yerushalayim, you could redeem. Kanshi Yerushalayim ain't podim Ma'aseh Sheni b'Yerushalayim. And Yerushalayim can't redeem it, so I'm not sure it's redeeming mamash, but it's derech. It's like pidyon, and he sings that. Mishnayos Steve ain't put. In fact, in the Mishnayos, the gear says outright ain't fisha ain't podim Ma'aseh Sheni b'Yerushalayim. Okay, that brings us to the top of Nun Vav. So even though the Gemara is short, we'll leave it for tomorrow.